reputation has gotten around
Yeah.
making people cry.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's happened. But
Well, anytime I have to talk about my dad, stresses me out. So here we
don't
are.
be stressed.
No, it's okay.
It's just your old friend Shannon.
Exactly.
Just like chit chatting like we have been all morning.
Literally all morning.
Maybe just chit chatting about cats.
About cats. Oh my gosh.
Perfect.
You've got a hair on that side that might just need to be tamed. It's kind of a little more towards the front. There you go. That's got it.
Okay. Sweet. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, so Nicole, how we start all of these off is by you introducing yourself. So you're like, hi, I'm Nicole Hernandez, and your title here at KREM, and then say, let's talk.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I can do that.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Ready whenever you are.
Can I say hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Nicole Hernandez. I am a reporter MSJ here at KREM 2 News, and let's talk.
Perfect. All right, so Nicole, first up, where are you from?
So I'm from San Diego, California.
And how long have you been in Spokane?
I've been here for 3 years. So I was in San Diego my whole life. I grew up there. I went to college in Phoenix, and then I moved up here as my first job out of college.
And then your mom also has moved up here, right?
Yes, my mom moved up here 9 months ago, and that was such a welcome, happy thing to have her and my brother both up here close. I love Spokane, so having family close as well just means so much.
And what are some of your favorite activities to do here in Spokane?
Oh, goodness. Well, in the summer, I really like the beach. The beach is perfect. I tried to jump in the water as much as I possibly could. I really want to get into snowshoeing. I haven't done it yet, but I have the snowshoes. Just being outside in general is really fun. Hiking in this area, and then hanging out with my family, renovating my house.
So I'm sure like our viewers are pretty familiar with you, like you're a staple on our morning show especially. What is something that they might not know about you? Like a fun activity or anything like that, like a random fun fact about Nicole Hernandez.
I have a huge family. My mom's side of the family, oh gosh, we had a few cousins. We did the math before a few cousins were added to the list. I think we're probably like 36 cousins now on my mom's side, including second cousins. But we all have a huge family. I am one of the oldest cousins in the family, and I was the first to leave San Diego. So everyone lived in San Diego my whole life. I went to college and left San Diego, and my mom then moved up, but pretty much everyone's still back home.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your dad.
Yes.
Because your dad also a very big person in your life. And so let's talk about him. Where is he from?
So he's from El Salvador. He was born there and lived there until he was 3. He moved to the United States. I think he lived in New York from when he was 3 until when he was 7. And then when he was 7, he went back to El Salvador, stayed there until he was 12. And then he moved, I'm pretty sure, to LA when he was 12, and then was here in the US from that point forward.
And so now, with your dad being from El Salvador, how do you identify? Like, what do you say is your racial or ethnic makeup?
Yeah, so I am half Hispanic and half white. My mom has a plethora of random, I think Irish, Scottish, a bunch of stuff in there. And then my dad then is Hispanic. He's from El Salvador. So I am half and half. Technically, like in my blood, I'm half Hispanic. But culturally, I always used to say like I'm the whitest Hispanic you'll see.
And so, growing up, of course, like with your mom and your dad, did your dad ever, I guess, try and instill in you any of the El Salvadorian culture or even the language?
So that's something that growing up in San Diego was interesting. I grew up in San Diego with the last name Hernandez. I've got, the darker Hispanic features. I'm pretty white passing, but people can typically tell that I at least have some Hispanic blood in me. And I don't speak any Spanish at all. My dad did not teach us Spanish. Instead of teaching us about his culture, he actually pushed it away pretty dramatically. We actually didn't even have any contact with most of his family for most of our life. I think there was some troubled relationships on that side of the family that caused us to break off from them. So not only did he not instill it in us, I also wasn't close with that side of the family. So I don't know Spanish. I really only know a tiny bit about his time in El Salvador. He remembers, obviously, he was there. 7 to 12 was the point that he remembers most, because before that he was too young to remember. But I mean, I could tell you only one story that he ever told us about his time in El Salvador. He pushed it away very hardcore and kept that culture kind of in the past for him once he met my mom and started a family.
Why do you think that is?
I think moving here, he was born in '65, and then he moved to New York initially, but I think then LA, and I think he struggled with being an immigrant. I think he struggled. English as a second language. He had to grow up in the United States as someone who maybe he didn't feel like he belonged. Again, he didn't talk about this with us much, so it's hard. It's something that we can only infer. He would talk a little bit about it, but he pushed it out so much. He didn't want any part of it anymore because I think it was such a troubling part of his past. He didn't want that for us. He very specifically wanted to erase that history and didn't want us to grow up with the stereotypes that he grew up with. So he didn't teach us Spanish. He was actually upset when my brother decided to take Spanish in high school. I took French in high school, so it was never a problem. When my brother started taking Spanish, up until the day he died, he was telling my brother not to speak Spanish. He never really got over the hurt and trauma from growing up here and the stereotypes and potential racism that ended up hurting him being Hispanic in a community that maybe wasn't so accepting of that. So it's really interesting.
And it's a story that I don't think a lot of people talk about, but that a lot of people do deal with, and especially children of first-generation immigrants. And it doesn't matter where they immigrated from. It's a very reoccurring theme to where you move somewhere and you try and assimilate in that mainstream, that dominant culture.
Absolutely.
And so now, as we're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, when somebody talks to you about Hispanic Heritage Month, or even topics that are, or I would say more issues that plague some of the Hispanic community, how do you take that information in and internalize it? Like, how do you then see Hispanic Heritage Month, or even, like I said, some of these other issues that are plaguing the Hispanic community?
It's a really weird feeling to sit with. Because I am half Hispanic. I'm not just a little bit Hispanic, right? I am first generation on my dad's side. I am fully half Hispanic, but I also don't understand that culture like so many other Hispanic and Latino people do. And I kind of want to learn sometimes. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to other people who are Hispanic, or I see the stories that we're doing, and I'm like, I want to know more because I don't know enough about that, and that is a part of me. So I definitely feel for the people who, like I said, I'm pretty white passing, so I don't deal with a lot of the maybe negative impacts of having that Hispanic blood in me. And I feel for the people that do have to deal with that, but I also want to learn more, and I do feel a little disconnected from that culture when I know I'm Hispanic and I know I fit into that group, but it doesn't necessarily feel like that all the time.
And so, just for transparency's sake, when you came to me with the idea that you might be interested, or this might be something that will be worth a let's talk, you were really hesitant about it because of that exact reason. You were like, well, I don't know if I fit. I don't know. Is that something? It sounds like that might be is that something that bothers you?
A little bit, yeah. I would say less bothers, more just I don't really fit into a category, which none of us do. None of us should have to, right? I grew up in San Diego, though. My school had a ton of Hispanic and Latinx people in it, right? It was a very normal thing to be Hispanic in the San Diego community. And then I moved to Phoenix, again, a very Hispanic-heavy community. So growing up Hispanic was never this weird thing. I didn't grow up in a place where that was weird. I grew up in a place where it was normal, but I didn't know Spanish, so that was kind of the taking point. I think it's hard because I'll go back a little bit and explain a little bit more about my dad, because he pushed it away so hard. So I have a half brother. His name is Braxton. He's my dad's son, but not my mom's. Braxton is 7 years older than I am, and when he was born, my dad and his mom decided to give him a fake last name. My dad did not want him to even have the last name Hernandez, so his last name is made up. No family ties at all. Braxton is 7 years older than me, so eventually he met my mom. My mom and dad started dating, got pregnant with me. My mom said that was a huge point of contention throughout her pregnancy with me, up until me being born, he did not want me to have the last name Hernandez either. And my mom and dad had been married, so my mom had the last name Hernandez, and she fought really, really hard to have that because her last name's Hernandez. She wanted her family's last name to be Hernandez too, and so she ended up ultimately putting Hernandez on my birth certificate, and then the same thing happened again with my little brother. Again, he didn't want that last name Hernandez. So it is weird to be in a place where Hispanic culture is, or not here obviously, but growing up in a place where Hispanic culture is so prevalent everywhere. All the roads are named Spanish names, right? You know, everything is so prevalent there with Hispanic culture, but then in a household where it's so pushed away.
Is there anything that he did teach you about his culture that you can remember or that like resonates with you?
There's a few little things. The one story that I remember him telling of being in El Salvador, he said when he was a kid, they either lived near or around a watermelon field, like they grew watermelons, and he said that they would go like throw the watermelons in the truck and then they'd ride the truck back to wherever home base was. And that was the one story that I know of his time from El Salvador. And then he really shared the food with us. So there was a little Salvadoran place. It was a little blue building in San Diego, and we used to go there all the time. I miss their pupusas is what we used to get all the time. The Loroco pupusas and then the pork and cheese ones. Oh, just absolutely amazing. He actually, before he died, he had tried to perfect making them again. And he had told us that he had finally got the recipe down before everything happened. He ended up having stomach cancer. So before that all started, he was perfecting that recipe apparently. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, that was pretty much the only thing we did. That was like the closest we got to being in tune with our culture at all, was going to the little Salvadoran restaurant in San Diego and eating our pupusas. And we called it hot corn drink, was the little drink that we would get. And yeah, it was good.
And so now, with this being Hispanic Heritage Month, does it, with us talking about it, even in this conversation right now, does it bring up any other feelings? Does it make you feel like any type of way, whether it's good, bad, weird, anxious?
Definitely a little bit anxious. I was joking with you that I was a little bit stressed about doing this. But good also, because I am able to accept where I'm at now with my culture and my background, and understanding how his background affected him, and that's why he made the decisions that he made, whether they be good or bad. And that's something that I've been working on, is accepting all the decisions that he made, because he had his reasons and he had his traumas. But our life is better. So, yeah.
And if you could say anything, because there are, whether you've met them or you know them or not, there are other people who are going through this exact same thing and have difficulties and kind of living in two worlds. Mm-hmm. Whether or not that they're completely aware of all of the worlds that they live in, but it's a very common thing, and especially in people who are biracial, especially in people who are children of first-generation immigrants, like I've said. What advice would you have to somebody out there who's, like I said, going through this exact same thing, has these same very strong feelings inside?
I would say open up yourself and open up to your family as well. Like I said, your parents have their reasons for removing you from that culture because of their past. But it's okay to have tough conversations and ask that you're interested in that and that you want to know more. And that's okay. And that's something that I didn't really do so much, and I can't really do anymore. And that's okay. But try if you're interested in it. And if you're not, that's okay. You can be perfectly okay. Just, yeah, I'm Hispanic, but I don't really feel like it. That's okay too. If you don't feel like you want to, or feel like you do connect with that culture, that's not a problem either. And don't feel bad about that either, because if that's not how you were raised, then that's a really hard thing to come up with later in life.
You obviously have like a deep emotion for your dad.
Yeah.
Like, is there still kind of that gut reaction that it's like, oh, it's a Hispanic thing, kind I need to stay away from it. Like growing up, was it, you took French, you made choices because it was important to your dad, right?
Give me a second. Eric did it. It wasn't
I
you.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me. For the record.
Goodness. Yeah, I think I actually never thought about it until now, that like choice to take French. I don't know where that came from. I don't know if that was because of him, or my mom took French in high school too, so maybe it was just, but I just have trouble just kind of consolidating everything in my head, I guess. Making it all fully make sense. I don't think I'm necessarily making choices now to lean one way or the other. I'm not purposefully pushing away any Hispanic culture that comes my way because of his influence. But on the flip side, because of his influence, I'm not fully ingrained in that. It's not deeply in my heart and down to my core like other people who grew up with that feel. And that's something that I can work on if I want to, and I'm sure the community would be accepting of. But yeah, I think it's just tough because he got worse in his ideologies throughout his life. I think that whatever traumas he went through kind of settled, and he became a little bit paranoid, and so it was never easy to try to bring up with him or pull out that side of him as time went on. So that's a little bit hard.
With these other Let's Talks, we've talked about community with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's your community here in Spokane?
Here in Spokane, my family, of course. Yeah, my community as a whole is 100% my family. I mentioned not on my dad's side, but on my mom's side. I am super, super lucky to have that tight-knit, close relationship with my family in San Diego. And then here in Spokane, I've built my own community with everybody that I've been able to encounter along the way, whether it's with my coworkers. My mom and brother moved up here. I have a family that I lived with for a year that I'm still super close with. So just building that community around here has been really good, and I definitely feel like I have a place here in Spokane right now, so that's good.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say or that you wanted to mention, maybe?
I don't think so. I think, it is cool that I found out, I live in East Central, and I found out that the East Central makeup, that Hispanic people are actually higher. Like the more Hispanic people live in East Central than before. And that was a cool moment because I was like, wait, that's me. And there's little moments like that where you do get to recognize that in yourself or be proud of that in yourself. Like, hey, yeah, I'm Hispanic, and that's cool. And you're talking about advice, just like I take those when they come, and that's cool. And maybe one day I'll learn Spanish. But that's it.
I love it. That was perfect.
Okay.
Great job.
Goodness.
See, no reason to be nervous, and I didn't even make you cry.
No, it was Eric.
So sorry.
I was close to crying a few times, and then you mentioned that, and I was like, well, shoot.
We need the look
The
at
shots.
stuff.
Yeah.
The what?
So Brett kind of puts together like a little montage of like you thinking
Oh.
about things
Mhm,
and
mhm.
looking off to the side.
Yes.
So
Like,
you can kind of look off, be a little like I'm thinking.
ah, San Diego.
San Diego. Okay. I don't know where to look or what to.
You can just kind of look around. Look to the left, look to the right. Like,
I hate my
it's
profile.
almost weird you're shooting me. This portion, because you're trying to do it. People are like, yes, look over here. And like, kind of randomly laugh. Yes, exactly. Perfect. Thank you. And now, like, just look slightly serious over
Oh,
to
no.
Because like what he does is he takes like stills
Mm,
and then
mhm.
like boom, 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 boom. and they look really good.
Okay. Thanks, Brett. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's really weird. I do exactly what interviewers do when they
Always, every time.
every